So I saw today that Speaker Mike Johnson denied the Jackson family's request to have the Reverend Jesse Jackson lay in state at the Capitol. And I thought that was a missed opportunity. For, we're so divided and we have so many things that we're separate on, that this was, kind of like a soft lob to like bring the country together a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's kind of because they missed that opportunity to allow Jesse Jackson to lay in state. It's annoying because you're right. It is a missed opportunity when we're dealing with a nation divided. Yeah. And so your logic is we're not going to allow Jesse Jackson to lie in state because that's reserved for presidents and, certain military officials. And I just call BS on that. And the reason why I call, bull on that is because you can justify it either way. Mm-hmm. You can say, normally we don't allow, but presidents and certain military officials to lay in state. That what we're going to do right now is build a bridge.
Yeah.
And allow Jesse Jackson to lie in state. And the reason why I think that's important is not just because of the time we're going through right now. Mm-hmm. I think we need to really. You got so many podcasters out there, so many black podcasters out there, and I don't think I've come across any of them that's making the correct argument for Jesse Jackson.
Which is,
well, now politically, Jesse Jackson was a Democrat, and Obama ran as a Democrat president, and so Jesse Jackson did bring certain reforms into that Democratic election process that paved the way for Barack Obama. And I don't want to get into the politics of it because there's a lot of his personal politics that I don't necessarily agree with, but I think there's much more at stake than that. There's a much bigger cause at stake, and because there's a lot of people out there that's not going to agree with all of his personal politics, and that's okay. But what is his legacy? And
yeah.
When you stand his legacy up to MLK's legacy, and this is in no way to disparage MLK's legacy, but if we're going to discuss this in terms of spiritual laws or natural laws, Jesse Jackson advanced black culture in ways that Martin Luther King, MLK didn't even come close to.
Right.
And I'll break that down for you. The foundation which MLK's entire movement was built on was being a good Christian. Mm-hmm. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Mm-hmm. If that's what you are, be that. Be a good Christian. But that's what his entire movement was built on. And so, and to understand the limitations that creates for black culture, it's important to break that down. Mm-hmm. Because not only is your movement advanced at being a good Christian, your opposition is in no way honoring that.
Right.
Because we went through a period where children are getting bombed in churches, and black Christians can't sit with white Christians, and so Christianity went through this thing, and in a lot of ways it still goes through that.
It kind of feels like taking a knife to a gunfight.
It kind of feels like taking a knife to a gunfight. And so, and Martin Luther King Jr.'s movement was built on the same premise as Gandhi's movement. Mm-hmm. But there's some very important differences there. Mm-hmm. Gandhi was trying to remove a foreign invader from his land.
Yeah.
So he had the home court advantage, where if to duplicate that movement here, you are establishing the ground rule, first of all, that you don't have the home court advantage,
right?
that you're conceding the home court advantage. And what you're doing is saying, we will submit to your home court advantage if you just give us these concessions.
Yeah. If it kind of feels weak.
It is. But the reason why I don't want to disparage MLK's legacy, because maybe at that marker, at that mile marker, that's all he could get. And he laid down his life for that.
Yeah.
And so that's why me explaining it this way is not meant to disparage him. You know, he has an incredible legacy.
Yeah.
And so, but according to those same laws of nature, that baton was then passed to Jesse Jackson, and he took it much, much further than MLK could have taken it, because his movement was not built on the premise of being a good Christian. His movement was built on the premise of Black power. That is the most important part of the concept to understand, and so in terms of politics, personal politics, I don't agree with everything he did or what he said, and not necessarily for the same reasons that a lot of other people may disagree with him. But I think the most powerful gift that he left behind, and that should be used to honor his memory, is the title of African American.
Really?
Yeah, that is spiritually powerful. And owning that title gives you much, much more spiritual power than being a good Christian. Now, not saying that you shouldn't be a good Christian if that's if that's your baseline. That's exactly what you should be. But to understand what that means by African American, calling yourself African American is grounded in a certain spirituality, which is African spirituality. It maintains that connection. Now, and this is based on spiritual laws, hermetic principles, occultic principles, and things of that nature, that the common mind, you've got to have a bit of an elevated mind to understand those concepts and for those things to register. And obviously, Jesse Jackson understood those. Because he didn't invent that title. He went back in history and pulled it out of a pamphlet. I'm sure he studied and researched on and everything. He is obviously somebody that does his due diligence. Yeah. And when he came across that title, he understood what that really meant. See, by calling yourself African American, it doesn't matter what part of Africa you came from. And you'll hear ignorant people say, well, I don't know what part of Africa I came from. I'm not calling myself African American. You'll even hear people that are rich or wealthy that are African Americans deny that title and have no idea that that is probably just as powerful as denying your black skin. And yes, it is. And I'll tell you why. On that passage over here, the conversations about Africans being thrown overboard and Africans being jumping overboard, those conversations are legendary. We all know that it happened. Those sharks were known to follow those ships. Yeah. Okay? And so you think about a man or a woman that knew what it meant to complete that journey, and they chose to jump overboard. They would rather drown and be eaten alive by sharks than continue that journey. You see what I mean? Yeah. Now, by calling yourself African American, you honor them. Now, if you don't understand how or why, then you need to do real spiritual research. You stay connected to them. It's an African spiritual system, And it is, for lack of a better way of explaining it to people, they'll understand it as ancestor worship.
Okay.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
But it keeps you connected to the spiritual forces that have made sacrifices for you. Mm-hmm. If I have the opportunity personally, I wake up and was a free prince in Africa. We fought a war. Now I'm a prisoner of war. And next thing I know, I'm being toted off to what is a slave ship on its way to America.
Right.
Now, this is the reality that I was born into. Mm-hmm. And my options are, when I get on this ship and we're out to sea, mm-hmm. and I know that the destination is a life of slavery to these white men on this ship, mm-hmm. and I see the atrocities that are occurring on this ship, and I have the option to jump overboard to those sharks, mm-hmm. I'm jumping overboard to those sharks.
Yeah.
Yeah. And at best I can do is I'll probably take as many with me as I can. I'll take one of them with me. Mm-hmm. But I'm definitely jumping overboard. I'm not going to sign the contract that says I agree to finish this journey and become a slave, and a life of servitude to this people is what I'm going to choose, as opposed to the 15 minutes it takes me to get eaten alive and feel excruciating pain.
Right.
And it's all over with.
Yeah. And
that's my personal choice.
Right.
Now, the reason why that is important, because there was men and women that made that choice. Mm-hmm. And by calling yourself African American, because we don't know which country those lost souls came from. We don't know what part of that continent they came from. But what we do know, they were African. Yeah. And what we do know is that we are now born generations on American soil. Yeah. And the only thing that keeps us as African Americans attached to the legacy of the sacrifice that they made, and even to the legacy of that first generation of ones that would have jumped overboard and didn't get the opportunity. Mm-hmm. And so they had to die on this soil. You keep yourself connected to them. You keep them connected to you. You keep their fighting spirit alive in you. Mm-hmm. You keep the spiritual connection that they had to that soil that they were stolen from. You keep that connection open. That's what the title African American means. Yeah. And so you get people that get, lost in the weeds of, I don't know what country I came from. I don't like Jesse Jackson because of this, and that's the term he came up. There's so many levels to psyops.
Right.
Most people are not even thinking what they think they're thinking. They're thinking what they're being told.
Yeah. Because if anything's ever explained like that, I don't see why you wouldn't want this.
And you can do the research. You can find the books. Jesse Jackson was, his the premise of his movement was about Black power. Mm-hmm. The premise of MLK's movement was about Christian power.
Yeah.
It was using the power of Christianity to further the movement. And Jesse Jackson's engine was Black power. Now, mm-hmm. and of course, in this apartheid country, because it was definitely apartheid, yeah. and it is in many ways still that way. So, there is a thing where people will do something and just not call it what it is. So it could be a case where there are people that know this is apartheid country and just not calling it what it is. And you're living in it and you don't know you're living in an apartheid country. That's important to understand it that way, because when you understand it that way, what Jesse Jackson's legacy does is become much, much more powerful than MLK's legacy. Much, much more powerful. Whether you agree with him being a Democrat or Republican, whether you agree with any of those things or not, mm-hmm. on a personal level, the spiritual power he put into African American culture surpasses that of what MLK put into it.
Yeah, his legacy and positive impact on the country. Like, I think that's a positive thing.
Of course, that's a positive thing. You know, he did the famous speech where, you know, I am somebody. Mm-hmm. And then he went on to say, I am somebody. I may be poor. I may be disenfranchised, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I don't agree with all of that. Mm-hmm. But that could be part of the compromise. Right. Because it's chess, it's not checkers. And there's conversations that's been had that you may not be privy to.
Right.
It's very important that I get out in front of my people and tell them to say I am somebody, that they are somebody. Okay, well, if you want to go out there and say that, then you need to put this on there too. We need you to put that caveat on there. Now, remember, Jesse Jackson is living in a time where everybody's assassinated.
Oh, yeah, that's how they fix problems.
It's the rule of the day.
Yeah. So he's trying to stay alive.
You know, he more than just trying to stay alive, he's trying to advance his people.
And
because I think it's more than that.
Yeah.
I think if he was just trying to stay alive, or if that mattered to him, he didn't have to do any of that.
Yeah, that's true.
He didn't have to take that risk at all if his goal is to stay alive. And that's why I say his goal first and foremost was to advance his people.
Yeah.
And he had to compromise. You see what I mean? Mm-hmm. He had to, I want to tell my people to say I am somebody. Yeah. I want 20,000 of them in the stadium. I want 50,000 of them in the stadium. And so they can all shout together and feel the thunder of saying, I am somebody. Okay, you can say that, but we need you to put the caveat on it too.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Now what it does is it's incumbent upon you to sort through the two of them.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's very powerful to identify yourself with being poor and disenfranchised and those other things that he put on the end of it. Mm-hmm. But it is just as powerful for him to get that arena together and all of those people in that generation say, I am somebody. Jesse Jackson wore an afro. He represented Black power, but he did it in the best way he could get it done. You see what I mean? And so, it's important to see the whole picture.
Yeah, and I feel like that legacy and how he did it is the reason he should be able to lie and stay, even if precedent is, presidents and military officials. I think, the times we're living in, the struggles we're going through, we need positive things like that.
The opportunity avails itself for that reason. Yeah. It's very important that he does lie and stay because it brings things together. Obviously, you're going to have some of your riffraff on one side saying that they don't like that or they don't appreciate it, but that's who you're doing it to. You're doing it for them more than anybody. The right. ones that's going to hate it the most. You're actually doing it for them the most.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? They're the ones to need to understand why that needs to be done.
Right.
Because that's the moment in time we're in.
Yeah. We just need a lot more bridges.
We need a lot more bridges, and that is a really good bridge to have to let Jesse go to transition into the other world and become a bridge between the two.
Yeah.
To me, introducing African American fully into the extent that he did, that is such a powerfully spiritual move that he deserves to be honored that way. We can talk all day about a man's imperfections.
Right.
Okay, we can have, that's a different conversation, but what did he do for his people? And that's not being fully recognized even by his people to the right extent.